Chulin Daf Tes. We're starting on the bottom of Beit, the bottom line. The Gemara is still discussing the dispute of the Amoraim regarding as to whether if you slaughter half of one of the simanim, is it enough or not? Rav maintains that the Torah's hakpada regarding Rav is just that you do not leave over majority of the siman not shechted. But you don't have to actually shecht the majority of the siman. And the other opinion is no, for sure, you have to shecht the actual majority. Tashma, you see in the Brisa, shochet chatzi gargeres. If you, the Brisa says, if you shechted half the windpipe, and then you waited, you paused the amount of time it takes to do a different shchita, the complete shchita, the gomra, and then you completed shchitasai, then it's kshera. Asks the Gemara, if you tell me that if you do 50%, exactly 50% of the shchita, it's considered as if it's roiv, so then it's rafala. So now, when you shechted half the gregaris, it's as if roiv, and we know if roiv of the gregaris has a pagam, has a hole, so then it's considered treifa, and then you finish the shchita. Why is it okay? It's like you took a treifa and shechted it. It should be treifa. Says the Gemara, Mizvarth b'mehema. Do you really think this is talking about a behema? No, lie. It's talking about be'oif, that mimanav shech mechza mechza, if half and half, meaning you shechted 50%, is considered like roiv, then ha'avid le'ruba, then he shechted the chatzi gagaris, and it's fine. However, if mechza is not roiv, so then le'avid le'kum, then it's not treifa either, and he could finish the shchita. Tashima, another brisa that we want to use to answer our question. Harei shehaya chatzi kanet pagum. If you had half of the kana was already cut, it wasn't cut because you shechted it; it came cut already. When you saw the animal, it had a pagam, it had missing half of the gargeres. Chatzi kana pagum, and then hoisaval of kolshu. All you have to do is add a little bit. The gomra shchitasa, and you finish the shchita, then it's kosher. V'i amrit mechza al mechza kiraiv. If you're telling me mechza al mechza is considered like majority, so then treif avi, it's considered treif. But how's the chatzi kanet pagum? How could you fix it by shechting a little more? Isn't it, since it's already chatzi kanet pagum, since it's halfway, 50% pagum, shouldn't it be considered like roiv and it's treifa? So amarava shani lenin treifa de beinin roiv and nir. He says no. Regarding halachas of treifa, you need roiv that's nir leinayim, a roiv that we can actually notice that it's the majority, not exactly 50-50. So regarding treifa, really 50-50 is not considered roiv, but regarding shchita, it's considered roiv. Amarava says Rava, Amalei Abaya tells him back, V'loi kol lechein hu. Isn't it kol shekein? Shouldn't it be for sure by treifa? Uma treifa de b'mashu mitrafa. If even by treifa that is by the veshet, if you have one little small nick, then it's treif. Heichad de b'ina ruba. So then when you need roiv, then ba'inan roiv anir leinayim, if even treifa, that is possible b'mashahu. And when you need roiv, you need a substantial roiv that's noticeable. So shchita, the adi karuba lemiskasha, shchita that always needs roiv, like koshken de ba'inan roiv anir leinayim. Meaning, shchita, if you're telling me that treifa needs a roiv anir leinayim, shchita for sure need roiv anir leinayim, and 50-50 should not be considered a kosher shchita. Because if treifa, which we sometimes disqualify an animal just with a little bit, a teeny amount by the veshet, so if over there we still need a majority for the kaneh, not regarding the veshet obviously is possible with a mashahu. But when in treifas we do require a roiv, still where we require a roiv anir leinayim, so for sure by shchita when we always need a roiv, you should require a roiv anir leinayim. Says the Gemara, really, according to everyone, 50-50 is not considered roiv. Even Rav agrees that regarding shchita, if you cut 50%, it's not like roiv. The Rav, and this the Rav and Rav Kahana argued about was leinin Pesach regarding the carbon Pesach. What does this mean? The itmar, because it's like we learned, Hareshahoyu Yisrael mechtzet taharim mechtzet tmeim. Let's say you have half of the nation of Israel pure and half of them were impure. If you're impure, you can't bring the carbon Pesach. And the Torah says about an individual that if he's impure, then he should bring the Pesach Sheni. He should bring it a month later if he can't bring it during the proper time. However, the rule is if the entire tzibur of Yisrael are tamei, so then tumah tzibur. So then, because everyone's tamei, so then it's fine. We push off the tumah, and they're allowed to bring it even during the regular Pesach. What happens if you have a situation when you have half of Yisrael is tahar and half is tamei? Mechza, tahar and mechza tmeim. So Rav Amar mechza mechza karev. He says it's like roiv, and therefore tumah tzibur, and you can do it on the regular Pesach. You don't have to wait for Pesach Sheni. Rav Kahana Amar mechza mechza ene karev. Rav Kahana says no, it's not like roiv, and the ones that are tamei must do it during Pesach Sheni. The ones that are tahar do it at the regular time. The hasamai time over there. What's the reasoning of Rav? Ish ki tamei lo nefesh. Ish over there by Pesach Sheni it says ish an individual who will be tamei lo nefesh and can't do the carbon Pesach in Nisan. He does it in Iyar. So ish nidcha. Rav learns that ish only a person is nidcha. Vein tzibur nidcha. But if it's an entire congregation of people, and half of Israel is definitely considered a congregation of people, and therefore they do not get pushed off. And tumah tzibur even applies to mechza al mechza, to 50% of Klal Yisrael. Well, that's only halach over there, which he learns from ish, but that does not apply to shchita. And of course, Rav would agree that you need a majority of you need to shech the majority of the siman in order for the shchita to be rendered valid. Roiv echad be'oif. The Mishnah, the end of the Mishnah, ends off with a clause that seems to be repetitious. It says, we read in the beginning of the Mishnah, we said already that it's kosher. The majority of one is as if you shechted the entire thing. And then at the end of the Mishnah again has a clause that seems to be very repetitive. It says all you need is majority. So it sounds like repetitious. The Gemara over here is not going to discuss the purpose of this repetition. Tanina Chadazimna, we learned this already once, asks the Gemara. So why do we need this last clause in the Mishnah? Rabbi Eliyahu says, and this is the approach that the Gemara is going to run with a few Amoraim, that one clause is to teach you Chulin and one clause is to teach you Kachim. That by both Chulin and Kachim, all you need is to shech with the Siman. It's Tzricha, and they're both needed. And the Gemara is going to explain why they're both needed. If you only come to Chulin Hasam with the Sagalei Meruba, over there by Chulin, Roiv is okay, because we don't need the blood, we just need to kill the animal, we need to do the shchita. But by kachim, you need the dam to throw onto the mizbeach, you need it for the ritual of the actual sacrifice. So then I would think maybe it's not good enough with Roiv, with majority, and adika kula, you have to actually shech the entire thing. And therefore it has to teach me by kachim that you only need Roiv. But if you only told me kachim, I would say mishum de ladam utzarich, because you know why kachim you need majority? Over there you only need majority because you need the blood. Aval chulin, but by regular animals, they don't need the blood. I would think maybe even half is enough. You don't even need majority. And therefore you have to tell me both chulin and kachim. Kamash malan, hey b'chulin, kamash malan. So therefore it teaches me both chulin and kachim. Asks the Gemara, hey b'chulin v'hei b'kachim. Which clause of the Mishnah is referring to Chulin and Kachim? One of them is Chulin and one Kachim. Which one? Is the first one Chulin or the last one Chulin? Rav Kahana Mistabra makes sense. Reisha b'Chulin v'Sefer b'Kachim. That the beginning is talking about Chulin and Sefer b'Kachim. Mimai, why? Midiktani Hashoichet, since it says Hashoichet. And the parak starts off Hashoichet echad be'oif. If you think the beginning clause which talks about the majority of the siman is referring to kachim, so hamaylik mibayale. If we're talking about kachim, you have to say hamaylik. Shchita doesn't work for kachim. You need to do meliko for echad ba'oif. Elamai, says the Gemara, sefer b'kachim. What are you telling me, that the end of the Mishnah is kachim? So then also shchitasek sheira, it should say milikasek sheira, mibayalei, because you're discussing kachim and you're also discussing birds. When it says halei kashya, that's not a question. I did the salik mi behema taniname shchitasek sheira. Since the end of the Mishnah is talking about behema also, and really it ends off with behema. The last clause of the Mishnah is roiv echad boif v'roiv shnayim behema shchitasek sheira. Really, it's talking about kachim. The reason why it says shchitasa is not because you're right. If it was only talking about oif, it would say mili kasai. But we ended off with roiv shnayim behema, and even by kachim, behema has shchita, and therefore we said shchita. But if the ratio was kachim, so then we start off with oif, and therefore it has to say hamoilek. Must be it's chulin. Ella, says the Gemara, Ella Reisha, the beginning of the Mishnah, Michli al Oifka, is going directly on bird. If you think it's talking about a kachim, then hamoilek in violation, should say hamoilek. And therefore must be the Reisha is talking about chulin. The Seifa is going directly on behema, so therefore even though it's talking about kachim, you could say shchitasek sheira. But the Reisha, which starts directly with oif, that can't say hashoichet if it's talking about kachim, it would have to say hamoilek, and therefore it must be talking about chulin. Reb Simi Barashi Amar, Reb Simi also says Reisha b'chulin, the beginning is chulin mehacha. This is how he knows that the beginning of the Mishnah is the one that's talking about chulin. Diktani echad ba'oif. It says echad ba'oif, only one ba'oif. If you think you're talking, if you think it's talking about kachim, ha'ika oila sa'oif, or in oila sa'oif, you have to do malika to both simanim, debai shnei simanim. So how could you tell me that the ratio which says all you need is echad, one of the simanim, it must be talking about chulin, because by kachim, oila sa'oif needs two. You need to do malika to both simanim. Says the Gemara, elamai seifa the kachim, elamai what? You want to say that the seifa is talking about kachim? So it also says reiv echad ba'oif. How could it say in the Seifa Rav Echad Ba'if and refer to Kachim that all you need is the majority of one of the simanim by a bird? Ha'ika oila sa'if. The Ba'ishnei simanim. How'd you help it? Oila sa'if also needs two simanim. And oila sa'if needs two simanim. In the Seifa, if it's talking about Kachim, it can't say only you need only one. So it's more my Rav Echad. When it says Rav Echad, you know what that means? That means Rav Kol Echad Ve'echad. That could mean Rav of each one. But in the beginning, when it says Hashoichet Echad Ba'if, that doesn't mean each one. That only means one. When you say Rav Echad, that can mean Kol Echad Ve'echad. Uvdin, who says the Gemara Delisni Rav Shnayim. Really, in the Seifa, it should say Rav Shnayim, because by Oila Sa'if you need Rav Shnayim. But Kevin Ikachata, since you have Chata Sa'if, the Saglei B'chat Simin, you only need one Simin, even by Kachim by Chata Sa'if. So then Mishumachi like Psikolei, because it varies by Chata Sa'if to Oila Sa'if, therefore, like Psika, didn't want to make one blanket rule. It left it open that it could be read in both ways. If you want to read it for Chatas, you can read it as Rav Echad means the majority of only one, and if you want to read it for Oila, you can read it Rav Echad, Rav Kol Echad Ve'echad. So therefore, like Psika, it didn't, it wasn't specific. It didn't decide on one thing because it wanted to leave it open for both Chatas and Oila. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Papa says Reisha Mechul Mehocha. He brings another way we can know that the beginning is what's discussing chulin. Diktani Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Ad sheyishchet es avridim. You must shecht the veins, the blood vessels that bring the blood. Upligi Rabbanan lei, and then Rabbanan argue on him. Only Rabbi Yehuda says you have to cut it, but not Rabbanan. Iyam b'shlomah b'chulin. If you're telling me to someone chulin shaper, ela yamrit b'kachim, that if by chulin makes sense, but if you're talking about kachim, amai pligi Rabbanan lei. Why would the Chachamim argue on him? Hu atzmai ledam utzarech. He himself, meaning the kohen that's doing malika to the bird, he needs the dam to spritz onto the mizbeach. So why wouldn't the Chachamim argue? Why would the Chachamim argue with Rabbi Yehuda regarding kachim? You need the blood, so of course they say you should shech the vridim. So must be from the fact that Chachamim argue, must be we're talking about chulin, and it's by chulin that they argue. By chulin you don't need the dam. Rabashi Omar Seifa b'kachim miyacha. Rabashi brings a proof that the Seifa is talking about kachim from the following inference. The following Mishnah, the next Mishnah, not our Mishnah, the next Mishnah which comes directly after our Mishnah, says if you shecht two heads at once, then it's kosher. But the inference from here is that Ashaychet the Evid, only with the Evid, it's fine if you did it, it's okay, but Lechatchila, in the first place, you shouldn't do it. If you're telling me that the Seifa and the continuation to the next Mishnah is discussing Kachim, so then, Hainu de Lechatchila Loi. This is why I can understand why it makes sense to us why by Kachim you should not shecht two animals together with one motion. Mishum detani Rabbi Yosi, because Rabbi Yosi explains regarding Kachim, Tizbach, it says in the pasuk, Tizbach shelo yehu shnaim sheichtim. One person should shecht, you shecht, Tizbach, you shecht, you single person should shecht, shelo yehu shnaim sheichtim zevachachot. You shouldn't have two people that shecht one carbon. Only one person should do the entire thing. And and also says Tizbachuhu shelo yehu, and this teaches us shelo yeh echad sheichet shnei zevachim, that one person with one motion of shchita should not shecht two animals. So this is a pasuk which is referring to Shlomim, it's referring to Kachim. So by Kachim we see the pasuk specifically mandates to us that you cannot shecht two animals with one motion. And therefore, says Rav Ashi, this is where we would know that you can't do it lechatchila. The Omer of Kana explains, how do you know this from the pasuk? Because you can read it tizbachehu ksiv, even though we read it tizbachuhu with a shuruk, but really when you look at the verse without any nikudus, then you can read it tizbachehu, which would mean you single person shecht it, which shecht them, shecht the shlamim, but you single person shecht them, meaning you should only one person should shecht one animal and not two people. But that's how we know that by Kachim, one person should shecht one animal, not two people shecht one animal, and also one person should only shecht one animal at a time, not two animals in one motion. So then Rav Ashi doesn't make sense that if the Seif of our Mishnah and the following Mishnah is all discussing Kachim, so then it makes sense because this is the source to know such a thing. Ella Yamrit Bechulin, if talking about Chulin, I feel lechatchila nami, so lechatchila also you should be able to shecht with one motion. I mean, the only time we find that there's a hakpada not to shecht two heads at once is only by Kachim. The Afar B'Shem B'Shlakish, even Reish Lakish, Savar, Reish B'Chulin V'Sefer B'Kachim. He also holds that the beginning is talking about Chulin, the end of our mission is talking about Kachim. Damar Rabbi Shbal, Me'acha Sheshaninu Roiv, he asks the same question, Me'acha Sheshaninu, once we have Ruba Shalachot Kamayu, in the beginning of the Mishnah, Lama Shaninu Roiv Echad Ba'oif, the Roiv Shaninu Behema, he explains the Fi Sheshaninu, because we learned regarding the Avodah of a Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. What does it say? It says Eviu Leis Atamid Dibron, and the Tamid Kartzai. Kartzai means he shechted it. Umirek Acher Shchita Sayal Yadai, and another Kohen finishes off the Shchita. Mirek, the Shchita means he finishes it off. So Yachaloi Mirek Yei Pasol. You might think that if the other Kohen doesn't finish it off, it's going to be Pasol. Therefore, we learn the Beferish in our Mishnah to teach you that all you need is the majority of an oif, the majority of one simon by oif, majority of two simonim by behema. And Rish Lakish is saying that this is going to teach us regarding the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, which means it's teaching us regarding Kachim. So, the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur, all he needs to do is shecht roiv, because he's pressed for time. And he must do all the avodas on that day, and therefore he has to be mekabel the dam also. So he has to quickly shecht the minimum of what he must, which means he has to shecht roiv, and then he's mekabel the dam, and another kohen ends off the shchita. So you might think that it's ma'akev, that another kohen must finish the entirety of the shchita. Kamash in our mission, know that you don't have to. Omar Mar, the Gemara goes back to explain this statement. Yochol loy mirek yei pasel. I might think, Rish Lakish said, I might think that if you didn't actually finish the entire shchita, then it's pasel. Says the Gemara, Imken havila avodah ba'achar. If so, what the Brisa would be saying is that the Kohen Gadol shecht roiv, and then another Kohen finishes it off. And if you really have a havamin, if you really think that it's essential to finish the shechita, it's essential for the kashrus of the animal, the kashrus of the korban, for the other Kohen to finish it, havila avodah ba'achar. Then on Yom Kippur you're having avodah being done, essential avodah being done by someone who's not the Kohen Gadol. V'tanya, we have a brayso that says, "Kol avodas Yom Kippurim einik sheres elaboy." All the avodas, all the worship all the work that was to be done in the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Kippur was only done with the Kohen Gadol. And over here, you're telling me that this Kohen Hedyot is the one who finishes the shechita, and you had a havamina to say that it's essential to finish it, and that can't be. So what are you thinking? Says the Gemara, no, you're right. Really, I would never think that it's really essential. Because then how can the Kohen Hedyot do it? I would think still that maybe there's a psul midrabanan. That maybe in a regular situation, not on Yom Kippur, it would be a psul midrabanan not to finish the shechita. And therefore you have to have, on Yom Kippur, you have the other Kohen doing it. Therefore, kamashmal on our Mishnah, the kach shaninu, therefore we learned, that you only need Roiv, and therefore even a Psul D'Rabbanan does not exist if you don't finish the entire thing. Who says the Gemara, Me'achad I feel Psul D'Rabbanan, like since once you're telling me there's no Psul D'Rabbanan even, so then Lama L'Marek, so then how come you have to do Miruk at all? What's the point of Miruk? There's no Psul D'Rabbanan. It says the Gemara, Mitzvah L'Marek. No, it's still a mitzvah. It's still a good thing to be Mimarek. Rashi explains because to get all the dam out, to get the most dam you can out, and therefore, you're right, it's not essential, it's not even essential midrabanon, but still there's a mitzvah to do it because it gets the dam out. Amar Reb Shimon ben Lakish Mishum Levi Saba. The Gemara continues to another discussion regarding shechita. He says, Eina l'shchita ela b'seif. It's only called shechita at the end of shechita. Meaning we have the process of shechita from the beginning of cutting the first siman to the end of cutting the last siman. But he says only the end is really considered shechita. Yochanan says no, it's actively called and considered shechita from the beginning until the end. We're going to see what the consequential difference, what we're talking about, what's the nafkamina. Amar Rava, says Rava, Hakol Moedim, everyone agrees, let's say a guy, a non-Jew, shechts, who's disqualified to do shechita. Let's say he shechts the first siman, the siman echad Yisrael, and then the next siman Yisrael does. Everyone agrees she psula. Why? Shari naisa b'maisa treifa b'yad ovik rechavim. A non-Jew made it treifa because his shechita is rendered invalid. Therefore, he shechted one siman, and now it's a complete siman that is completely severed through non-shechita, and that makes it treifa. And then when the Yisrael does the last siman, it doesn't help, and therefore it's going to be treifa. That everyone agrees that it disqualifies it, even though it's only the beginning of the shechita. Even Rish Lakish, who says aim shechita only b'seif, only at the end, over here he agrees because you made it treifa. Ba'ila sa'if nami, ba'ila sa'if, also everyone agrees. If you molik one siman down on the floor as opposed to on top of the mizbeach. The din by Elas Oif is you have to do the malika on top of the mizbeach while you're standing on top of the mizbeach. So let's say you by Elas Oif you're molik both simanim, but you did the first one downstairs and the second one upstairs. The molik siman echad lamata v'siman echad lamala. So then psula, it's also possible. Why? Also b'maisa chatas oif lemata. Because he says even according to the Omer rules that shechita is levasoif, that doesn't apply here. He would agree that it's possible here if you shechted one of the simanim of Eilas Oif downstairs, because he says the maisa of shechting the first siman is considered choshev. How do we know it's considered choshev? How do we know it's considered something? It's considered actively shechting, or in this situation actively doing melika. How do you know it's considered actively doing melika? Because by chatas oif that's the way you do it. By chatas oif you're downstairs and you shecht one and you do malika to one siman, so that is considered a legitimate ma'isa malika, and therefore when you did it to an Eilas in the wrong place, you did it downstairs instead of upstairs, so then it will render a psul. Lo nechlaku, the only machlokes, Ella, lo nechlaku Ella, the only time they have machlokes is kigon sheshachat simen echad b'chutz, when you shechted one simen outside of the base hamikdash, and then simen echad b'fnim, you brought it in and you shechted one simen inside. So the man Omer yesh l'shchita m'tchilavat tzayif, according to the man Omer that says it's called shchita from the beginning to the end. So then michayev, he's chayev for shchutei chutz. The rule is you can't take kosher and shech them outside of the Beis Hamikdash. You have to shech them in the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore he holds, even though you only shechted the beginning, even though you only shechted the first siman outside, but that's called shchita, and you're over shchutei chutz. According to the opinion Reish Lakish, who holds that no, it's not called shchita until the end. So then he says, lo michayev, you're not chayev, because one siman isn't a kosher shchita. So when you shechted outside, it wasn't a kosher shchita. It's only when it makes it kosher, that's when it's called shchita. The other part is just necessary in order to get to the last part, but it's not called shchita, and therefore he holds that if you shechted one siman outside, you're patur, and if you continue to shech the second siman inside. Omer le Rabbi Bar Simi. Rabbi Bar Simi says back to Rava, Mar loy Omer hachi. My master, my Mar, did not say this way. Umanu, who's his master? Rav Yosef. What did Rav Yosef say? He said no, even in that situation, Reish Lakish would hold this puzzle. Why? Because you did a maisa that if you were dealing with a chatas ha'oif and you did a shchita of a chatas ha'oif that's kudshim, right? You had a knife that was meant to be a chatas ha'oif and you shechted it outside. You did only one siman. You did shchita to one siman of this chatas ha'oif outside of the Beis Hamikdash. You would be chayav for shchutei chutz. Why would you be chayav for shchutei chutz? Because a chatas ha'oif only needs one siman. Therefore, because by chatas ha'oif, had you shechted it outside, you would be chayev. So then, even by a regular animal, we still consider it shchutei chutz, because we have situations where the action you're doing outside is considered a ma'aser shchita, and therefore, even by a behema, when you shecht one siman outside, you still chayev for shchutei chutz, because we see from the case of chatas ha'oif that it is considered shchita. So, in what case do they argue according to Rabbi Yosef? This machlokes is whether yeshan the shchita mitchila v'atzoif or only basoif. They're only arguing going to shachat miut simanim b'chutz. If you shechted not a full siman, part of a siman, only the minority of one of the simanim b'chutz, and then gamrei b'fnim, then you finish the shchita inside. L'manda Omar yeshan l'shchita mitchila v'atzoif mechayev. According to Manda Omar, that it's considered shchita from the beginning all the way to the end, and it's all called shchita, so then you're chayev, because even though you did a minority of the shchita outside, only a minority of one of the simanim outside, still it's considered shchita, it's called shchita, and you're chayev for shechting kachim outside. According to Mandam who holds ein shchita only at the end, lo mechayev holds you're not chayev, because the beginning is, although necessary, it's not called shchita, it's not actively called shchita, and therefore you're patur. Mosiv Rab Zera asks a question. It says in the Brayse, anyone who's dealing with a para aduma, whatever avodah you're dealing with in a para aduma, from the beginning to the end, as long as you're dealing with one part of it, so then v'tamim b'gadim, the clothing of that person who's dealing with the para aduma becomes tameh. And also another side halacha that has to do with paraduma, that if you together with doing the avodah of paraduma include something else, let's say you shech the animal, and together with shechting the animal, shechting the para, you cut a pumpkin with the same motion. So then that disqualifies the paraduma. You have to have full focus on the paraduma and only do things to it, and not include anything together with any of the actions that you're working for in the paraduma. The Gemara is going to focus on the first thing we said. So, iraba psul b'shchitasa. If, let's say, while you shechted the paraduma, it had a psul. You shechted incorrectly, some type of psul in the shechita happened. So therefore, bein koidim psula, bein la'achar psula, eine mitame b'godim. So basically, even though we said that at any point in time when you're working on the paraduma, you would become, your clothing would become tameh. That's one of the paradoxes of paraduma, that even though paraduma is coming to be mitaher, but the person dealing with it becomes tameh. So now, even though you are working with it, but if in the shechita there was a psul, that means that it never got off the ground. That means it would never became a paraduma to be mitameh, because right away there's a psul right at the beginning. So therefore, even if you were dealing with it before the shechita, before the pasal shechita, or the after pasal shechita, or after, with, let's say, within the slicing of the animal, if you're dealing with it before, at the time of slice when it was still kosher, or after when the slice became pasal, when the slicing, when the shechita became pasal, if you're dealing with it either way, you're tahar. It's not mitame your b'godim, because it never went off the ground. It's not a paraduma. So irba psul, this is what the Gemara is saying. Irba psul b'shchitasa, if a disqualification happened during the shechita, so then bein kodim psul, bein achar psul, some take out those words, but either way, whether it's before the actual issue happened or after the actual issue, ein mitam b'godim, it's not mitam b'godim. However, if, let's say, b'haza'asa, when you already burnt the para and you mixed it with water, and now you're sprinkling it. Oh, I'm sorry, Rashi says that it's talking about the hazah of the dam. You take the dam and you maz it on the mizbeach, on the keneged pesach shel heichal. You maz it towards the heichal. That's part of the ritual of making the paraduma. So let's say during this hazah, there was ira b'psul. Something happened, an issue happened that made the paraduma unqualified. It made it pasul. So then, koidim psula, if you were dealing with it right before the psul, meaning as you were sprinkling, during the hazah process of sprinkling the dam, then it became pasul. So if you're dealing with it koidim psula, before it became pasul, so then you were dealing with a legit paraduma before it was tameh, before it became pasul, so therefore it is mitameh b'godim. It impurifies your clothing. However, la'achar psula, but if you were dealing with it only after it was already disqualified for whatever reason, so then ain't mitameh b'godim. Why? Because now it's not a paradum anymore, it's disqualified. Says the Gemara, back to our previous discussion, if you want to tell me that it is considered that it's the entire process of shechita is called shechita yeshna l'shechita mishkul v'atzayif. So litzlag namu shechitasa. So regarding paraduma, we should be able to differentiate within the shechita itself. Ira b'psul b'shechita. If a psul happened in the shechita, if a psul happened in the shechita that disqualified the paraduma, so then we should say that kodim psula within the ma'aser shechita before the actual psul happened, then it should be mitam b'godim, and la'achar psula ain't mitam b'godim. Meaning, if we do understand that the entire the shechita is considered a ma'aser shechita, therefore, why don't we compartmentalize the actual shechita itself and say that if, let's say, at the 50% mark, that's when you did drasa, that's when you did shehiyah, chalad, agrom, or ikor, whatever, you messed up the shechita, let's say at the 50% mark. So then, the whole first half is considered shechita, because you hold yeshna la shechita mitchila v'atzoif, the entire thing is called shechita. So therefore, the person who is dealing with the para during the 50%, the first 50%, while the shechita was still okay, so then it should be fine. It should be mitameh b'godim, because it's called shechita of a para, and the para was kosher then. According to the Manda Omar, who holds yesh and l'shchita only l'vasayf, it makes a lot of sense. The beginning was never a shchita, and therefore there was never a shchita for any para aduma, because it all goes by the end, and by the end it was pasul already. But if you hold that in the beginning it's also called shchita, so there was a kosher of 50% of shchita, the beginning was kosher, and at that point there was a kosher shchita for a kosher para aduma, and someone dealing with it should be tameh. Says the Gemara, Amarava, niskalkel shchita ka'amar. You're talking about if eventually the shchita becomes pasul? Shani Hasa, no, that's different. Because then retroactively it becomes revealed the lav shchitahi. Meaning, everyone agrees that even if you hold yeshna l'shchita m'tchila v'atzoyv, that's only if it ended up being a kosher shchita. Then we say that it's considered shchita from the beginning also. But if at the end it ended up being a not kosher shchita, so we waive the entire thing and we say the whole thing is disqualified. We don't look at it as if the beginning was shchita or not. No, it all depends. It has to be finished the shchita. And therefore, in our situation, where we said before that if you shechted the miyut simanim bachutz and the roiv simanim inside, so then he says you're chayiv because then it ended up being a kosher shchita. Just the beginning was outside, so you're chayiv for shchutei chutz. But over here, it ended up being not kosher shchita, so the whole thing gets thrown out. Amar Rava, ikashali hakashali. If I have a question on the Manda Omar who says yeshen l'shchita m'tchila v'atzoyv, regarding this machlekes, Rava says if I have a question regarding this machlekes, this is what I would ask. Lemanda Omar eina l'shchita el b'sayf. According to the Manda who holds that it's only l'vasayf. That it's only at the end it's considered b'sayf. It's considered shchita. So lifloig behachshara de para. So we should make a differentiation regarding the achshara of the para, meaning when the para is kosher, not when it becomes pasul. When no psul happened. But let's say you had two people going to shechtu b'trei gavri. Let's say you shechted, two people shechted it. The gavra kama loy mitamid. The first person who shechted it, he didn't finish the shechita, so therefore he shouldn't be tameh. Even though he dealt with a para aduma, he should still not be tameh because the beginning of shechita is nothing. The gavra basar, but only the person who finished it, he should be tameh because of the final, because he finalized the shechita, and this Manda Amar Shlakish holds yeshna l'shchita only l'vasayf, and therefore according to him, why doesn't the Brisa make a differentiation and say that not if anything went wrong, if nothing went wrong, but just two people did the shechita, then we should say that the first person isn't mitame and the second person is mitame. Rabbi Yosef says, Trei Gavri b'chad zivcha kamar. You're saying two people shechting one carbon. Bar minei, you can't talk about that. Exclude that case. Why? Dahu de tanina tizbach. We learned from the pasuk, like we said in the beginning on Amud Aleph, Tizbach teaches you that two people can't shecht one animal, one carbon. Tizbacheu that one person shouldn't shecht two animals with one motion. Rav Kana says he learns this from Tizbacheu ksiv. It says Tizbacheu, which sounds like it's one person shechting two animals. So Rabbi Yosef says you can't ask from that situation. Because that situation where you have two people shechting the animal, it's puzzle. It's disqualified because the Torah says you can't have one person, you can't have two people shechting one carbon, and therefore that case, throw it out. Bar minei dehahu. We're not talking about that case. The Tanina, because we have a brisa that says that you can't have two people shechting one animal, and therefore, since you can't have two people shechting one animal, anyway, the para is disqualified, and anyway, no one becomes tamei. So Abai says back to Rabbi Yosef, don't we learn regarding this teaching that one person, two people can't shecht one carbon? That this is only the opinion of Elazar Reb Shimon. Stimta'a, who there are a lot of brises that are said stam, meaning they are said without any name, and because he authored many of them, so therefore it doesn't say his name. So this is stam. It doesn't say any Tana's name, but this is the opinion of Elazar Reb Shimon, who a lot of brises are him stam, even though it doesn't say any name. Aval Chachamim argue on him and say, yes, two people can shecht two people can shecht one carbon, says the Gemara. So according to him, we should differentiate, and we should be able to say that the first person would be tahar and the second person should be tahar. And even according to Elazar Reb Shimon, Nami, you should also have this shaila that lifla you should differentiate going to shachat chad gabra. When one person shechted b'shnei sudarim and he changed his scarf in between. He shechted with two scarves. The sudar kamal mitama. The first sudar shouldn't be mitama because shchita in the beginning is not considered shchita, only the end. And sudar basar should be mitama. And according to Reish Lakish who holds yeshen l'shchita b'soif, so we should differentiate and say that the person shechting at the beginning of the shchita, if he had one piece of clothing on, so then it shouldn't be tamei, because the beginning of shchita is not considered shchita, only the end, and therefore if he switched his clothing in the middle, and then only the latter one, the one that was on him during the end of the shchita, that should be tamei. Ella, says the Gemara, Bipsula de Para Kamairi, the Brisa is only discussing when the para is becoming puzzle, and the differentiations that come about when the para becomes puzzle. When it's kosher, and just the discussion is at what point it's the begadim martome, that is not discussing, and therefore don't bring me a proof from the Brisa that doesn't differentiate in a way that according to Reish Lakish there should be a difference. That's not a question, because the Brisa is only talking about hechsher, only talking about psul, not hechsher. Ad kan chulin daf chof tes.